guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Today I want to talk about 5 of my favorite, most underrated rare champions in the game. We've talked about a ton of rare champions on this channel so far over the last year. So today I want to talk about 5 that I don't speak about a lot. So we're not going to be talking about, say, I don't know, some of the more obvious choices, at least in my opinion, like Frozen Banshee and Reliquary Tender and champions like that, and focus on champions who I truly feel are better than a lot of epic champions in this game. Maybe 1 or 2 are even better than some of the worst legendary champions in this game that we just don't pay a ton of attention to. So I picked out my 5 favorites today. Let's go ahead and jump into the list. The first champion is going to be Greybeard. He is a Skinwalker champion, and Greybeard is a really cool champ. Now let's talk about the downside. The downside is, take a look at his base speed, 92, a very slow champion, but he is more of a tank. He is perfect for players who are lacking kind of that big, strong provoker type champion on your team who can take a hit or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You get the point, right? And that's exactly what Greybeard can do. You can see he's based off of defense. Now when we look at these rare champions and some also epic champions, heck, even legendary champions, we look for defense base. Champions that you can build out with a lot of defense, and it will help with their damage, also their sustainability. In this case, he's a tank, right? So he's going to help keep him alive to keep the rest of your team alive. On his A1, he has attack 1 enemy and a 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn, forcing that enemy to attack him. That's a really nice A1 to have that amount of a chance, 75% chance on an A1 of a provoke is really, really solid. On his A2 is Ice Crush. So on a 3-turn cooldown, this is a champion you definitely have to book out, but the good news is they're rares. I mean, rare books are still kind of difficult to come by in this game, but compared to epic and legendary books, they're easier. So it's relatively easy to upgrade these champions comparatively, okay? Attacks all enemies, and then has a 40% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn, damage inflicted proportional to defense again on a 3-turn cooldown. So a 40% chance of landing a freeze, and he has to provoke on the A1. Really solid so far, helping with your crowd control as well on a 3-turn. And then on Bring It On, his A3 ability, place a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns, has a 100% chance of placing a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns as well. When booked, again, on a 4-turn cooldown, the value of the shield is proportional to defense, and this buff cannot be removed. This takes his kit and adds that last ability to really synergize everything together. So he's going to be landing those provokes on his A1, and he'll have a counterattack. So a counterattack meaning that every time he's attacked, he'll be landing more provokes. So this provoke can essentially spread vis-a-vis the Bring It On ability, his A3. Really, really solid. And to keep him alive, his base defense is all right, but for a defensive base champion, 11-12 leaves a little bit to be desired. That's why we have that really nice shield on him as well to help keep him alive throughout all of those provokes. You just build him out with some speed on the boots and a bunch of defense. He doesn't even need to be putting out a ton of damage, just accuracy to land the provoke and to land the freeze, and a bunch of defense. You keep him alive. If you're struggling with progression, you keep him alive. He's provoking all the enemies, he's freezing all the enemies, and he's shielding himself so he can take all that damage. Greybeard is a really solid option, a champion that a lot of people don't talk about a lot in this game for kind of a tank defensive support. So next up is Bulwark. So Bulwark is a champion that we have not spoken a lot about here on this channel. I'm sure, you know, if you nitpick, I'm sure content creators and players have talked about all these champions, right? There's only so many in the game. But Bulwark is really in a class of his own for rare champions especially, but better than a lot of epics for clan boss, okay? This is a clan boss champion. Let's talk about why. First of all, defense-based champion, and his defense is pretty solid, higher than Greybeard's at 1266. On his A1, he has the weak version of Weaken at a 30% chance when booked up. Not bad. Even the weak version of Weaken debuff is going to help you out a lot on Clan Boss if you don't already have a Weaken debuffer on your team. Odds are you have a decreased defense. You want to add that Weaken if you can find a champion like Bulwark to add to your composition. On the A2, has an HP burn at 100% land rate on a 3-turn cooldown. HP burn, a great ability, again, to have one champion on your team to add on to the Clan Boss. And then his passive, and again, it's based off defense, this damage. You want War Master, by the way, on this champion as well. So you're going to be getting your War Master damage off the A1, and then you're going to be getting your HP burn damage off of the A2. He can actually put out a lot of damage over a long battle because of those two abilities, the War Master procs mixed with the HP burn, okay? On his passive, though, when attacked, has a 30% chance of extending the duration of all debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn. Really solid. Clan Boss has 2 AoE attacks. They're going to be attacking Bulwark. Each time has a 30% chance to make all those poisons instead of 2 turns, 3 turns. Instead of 4 turns, 5 turns, right? It's kind of a really miniature version of Vizier on your team. So, you know, when I say miniature, I mean really miniature, but still having that debuff extender is really important, and you're going to notice a huge difference when you put him on your Clan Boss team with a Poisoner. Also will extend his HP burn and his weaken. So a really solid champion, and it has defense in all battles by 17% on his aura. If you don't have an aura lead for Clan Boss, you don't have that Tyrell, for example, you don't have that Selpature Sentinel, excuse me if I can say it correctly, Bulwark is a great team lead, especially in early and mid-game Clan Boss. Bulwark, a really solid Clan Boss champion. Oh man, I'm gonna have to fawn over Doomscreech 2 videos in a row. In yesterday's video, I couldn't say enough things about Doomscreech, man. He's a really solid champion. Another Void Affinity champion, but he attacks 2 times on his A1 with a decreased accuracy, okay? On his A2, this is an amazing ability on a 3-turn cooldown. Fills a turn meter of all allies by 30%, and then places the strong version of increased defense buff on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown for 60% for 2 turns. Really solid. Warning Screech, there's no rare champion in the game, defense-based, support-based champion with an ability this strong, in my opinion. Maybe, I don't know, you're talking about maybe Reliquary Tender's A2 or Apothecary's A3, but you're really nitpicking here. Again, Warning Screech is an insane support ability. All on a 3-turn cooldown with that very valuable turn meter. Compare him to a champion like Haruspex, who has a turn meter of 15%, or a champion like Gorgorab. Granted, they have a different skill set entirely, but you know, it's a great ability, man. And there's only 6 champions. There's only 6. We talked about this in yesterday's video. There's only 6 non-legendary champions in the game. Only 6 that have a strong version of increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. Doomscreech is one of them, okay? On his A3, attacks all enemies in AoE based on his HP, which scales really well at 20,000 HP. 20,000 HP, you put this dude in a shield set, attacks all enemies, doing a lot of damage based on HP, plays a shield buff equal to 30% max HP on this champion for 2 turns. Damage increases according to this champion's current HP as well. So the Shelter ability, you put him in a shield set on top of the Shelter ability, and you're gonna have, because his HP scales so well, you're gonna have a tremendous support on your team. Turn meter boosting, increased defense every 3 turns, you're gonna have a shield on himself for 2 turns, and you're gonna be doing some decent damage on his A3. Doomscreech, one of my favorite rare champions in the game. Next up is Mother Superior. She's one of my favorite kind of rare support champions, who there's a lot of them. Like the Sacred Order and High Elves, there's just like, I feel like every other champion is a healer slash kind of quasi support. Mother Superior is my personal favorite, and there's good reason. On her aura, first of all, speed in all battles by 13%. It's not a high percentage, but if you're lacking a speed aura and you want your teams to just go a little bit faster, Mother Superior is a decent aura lead for you guys, especially again for kind of the early game. In the mid game, I would rather have the 13% speed in most circumstances than a starting champion's 15% HP, but really depends on what who your team is and what you need. So on the A1, she has a decreased attack debuffs for 2 turns. Kind of whatever. On her A2 though, heals an ally by 30% of this champion's max HP. We love to see that, and again, it makes her another viable candidate for a shield set. Put a shield set on her, build her HP to be very high, and again, we said this, what, a dozen times on the channel, but I'll say it again in case it's the first video you watch here on the channel. The shield set's shield is based on the wearer's total HP, okay? And it refreshes every single round in the dungeons. Shield set is behind speed, my favorite set in the game in terms of overall utility. So heals an ally by 30% of her HP, places a shield buff equal to any surplus heal for 2 turns if the target is fully healed. So another heal, another shield, all on the 3-turn cooldown. Really solid heal there. And then has a continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Place another shield buff equal to 10% of the target's HP on all allies for 2 turns if an ally's HP is full. So this is really, really interesting, okay? She's going to be putting shield buffs on her Brim with life ability. If you have a shield set on her, she's going to be refreshing a really nice shield, robust, every single round of the dungeon that you're on. And then she has the continuous heal on a 4-turn, and then she has the 30% heal on the A2. In my opinion, she's an incredibly underrated healer in the game. Her speed is solid at 103. Her defense lacks a little bit to be desired at 947. Her HP is okay at 16,350 for a rare champion. Again, put her in a shield, give her some defense, give her some extra HP. Don't worry about any damage, obviously, off of most of these champions that we're talking about today, and you're going to be looking really good with a Mother Superior in the mid-game supporting your team. And number 5 is Diabolus. So Diabolus, look at the speed on this champion. When you think about Diabolus, you think of speed. She's a demon spawn, magic affinity champion, 110 speed, really OP for a rare champion. That's Apothecary. I believe he's also 110. Am I right there? I gotta check. I think he's 110, right? I think 110 on Apothecary. He is 106, my bad on that. So 110 speed, not too bad to start out with here. So we go back to her. Let's take a look at the rest of her kit. On the A1, attacks 1 enemy, has a 20% chance of landing asleep. Whatever, kind of a meh ability. On the A2, though, attacks all enemies, and then on a 3-turn cooldown, places a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. So Electric Storm, this is kind of another option for you guys if you don't want to go with Apothecary as your speed kind of turn meter booster on your team. It's a nice to have an increased speed option on your team who actually can deal a little bit more damage than Apothecary and also bring some more kind of capabilities to the table as well. On her A3, she fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15% on a 4-turn cooldown. So she has like a mini Lysandra here in the A3 in positive charge. And again, you can see just the synergy. She moves really fast. You build her out to be incredibly fast. You stack a lot of speed on this champion. She has an AoE attack on the A2 and the 30% increased speed buff on the A2 on a 3-turn. And then on the A1, kind of whatever a meh ability, but overall a very fun option to have on your team as a speed booster. And you know me, if you watch the channel for any amount of time, I love turn meter manipulation, and in this case it's a 15% buff, but it's also a 15% debuff for the enemies on that turn meter. Just keep in mind, again guys, you need accuracy on this champion, not because you want to land the sleep on the A1, but because turn meter depletion does rely on accuracy, so you do have to build her accordingly depending on where you are in the game. For level 20 dungeons, I would love to have her at 180 to 225 accuracy or so. Guys, that is all I have for you. These are my favorite 5 kind of criminally underrated rare champions in the game. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. I really appreciate you guys, and as always, take care, guys.